नाज़रीन अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मेरा नाम है डॉक्टर खालिद और मेरे साथ आज हैं डॉक्टर आयरा हेल्फैंड। डॉक्टर आयरा हेल्फैंड इज़ co-president of International Physicians to Prevent Nuclear War और डॉक्टर आयरा हेल्फैंड फिजिशियन फॉर सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी के साबिक सदर भी हैं और डॉक्टर आयरा हेल्फैंड ने ज़िंदगी के 40 साल न्यूक्लियर वेपन के ख़िलाफ़ लड़ते हुए गुजारी है। आज डॉक्टर आयरा हेल्फैंड कार्नेगी एंडाउमेंट फॉर पीस इन वाशिंगटन DC, उसमें वो अपना एक लेक्चर और टॉक देने आए थे ऑन ह्यूमैनिटेरियन कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस ऑफ न्यूक्लियर वॉर। आई एम थैंकफुल टू यू डॉक्टर आयरा हेल्फैंड एंड वी कैन स्टार्ट आवर क्वेश्चंस। Dr. Ira Helfand, can you please, for our viewers, introduce PSR and IPPNW?
PSR is an American organization of doctors and other health professionals which is concerned primarily with the prevention of nuclear war. And we are part of an international federation, the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, which has member affiliates in about 60 countries around the world, all committed to educating the public about the humanitarian consequences of nuclear war, and through that educational work, we hope, lessening the danger that nuclear war will actually take place.
Did PSR or IPPNW has Nobel Peace Prize?
IPPNW and all of its national affiliates won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1985, specifically for this work, for the educational campaign which we conducted in the 1980s at the height of the Cold War, which was recognized by the Nobel Committee as making a significant contribution to changing the policies of the nuclear weapons states and lessening the danger of nuclear war at that time.
Recently, IPPNW, PSR, ICANN, Red Cross, United Nations, and maybe 70 other organizations rallied, and there were 127 countries signed a petition to United Nations to ban nuclear weapons. First of this kind meeting was in Oslo, 2013, March. The second happened in Mexico in February 2014, and the third meeting is planned in Vienna. Can you tell a little bit of salient features of this meeting and the topics of discussion?
Yeah, these meetings are part of a very important new initiative around the world to try to redefine the terms of public discussion about nuclear weapons. For a very long time, we have talked about them, nuclear weapons, as though they were like chess pieces in some kind of abstract game that people play. And what we are trying to do with this new movement is to refocus that conversation so that it proceeds from a discussion of what will actually happen if these weapons are used. Because if you look at the consequences, the medical impact of nuclear weapons use, the conclusion that you have to come away with is that these weapons are too dangerous for us to maintain in our arsenals, and they must be abolished. The meeting in Norway in March of last year, 2013, was the first ever gathering of nation states to explicitly address what will happen if nuclear weapons are used. I believe it was 126 or 127 countries attended a 2-day conference in which we explored the immediate and long-term effects of nuclear weapons use. The effects of the blast, the effects of the fire, the effects of the radiation, and perhaps most importantly, the newly appreciated climate disruption that will occur if even a very small number of nuclear weapons are used. Climate disruption which will put millions of people at risk, actually close to 1 billion people at risk, of starvation from famine as crops around the world fail because of this climate disruption. Meeting in Mexico that just took place last month in February of 2014 carried on that conversation. About 146 countries attended this time. There was a further discussion not only of what will happen if a nuclear war takes place, but also a very important discussion about the fact that a nuclear war is actually fairly likely. This is not some remote possibility, but a very real and present danger if we continue to maintain nuclear arsenals. And we talked about the possibilities of nuclear war taking place by accident. We talked about the possibility of countries which are not having good relations at the moment stumbling into conflict, which accelerates into a nuclear conflict. And the issue of India and Pakistan was front and center in these conversations. because of the nuclear arsenals held by both countries and because of the unfortunately still unresolved military issues between India and Pakistan, which threaten to erupt into violence at any time.
Before we go to India and Pakistan and the study you published called Nuclear Famine,
Yes.
remarkable study which was published all over the globe. How many times Russia and previous Soviet Union came in very close encounter with the United States to push the button and have mutual annihilation?
Many times. You know, there's this notion which the US and Russia still put forward today that we don't need to worry about their arsenals, that they would never use them, that these weapons are secured in stable, wise hands. Well, the fact is that during several crises during the Cold War, most notably the Cuban Missile Crisis, we came very close to a nuclear war which would have destroyed all of humanity. And even at times when there was not a crisis between the US and the Soviet Union, we know of at least 5 occasions since 1979. There may have been others, but we know of at least 5 when either Moscow or Washington prepared to launch nuclear war in the mistaken belief that it was itself under attack by the other side. These were usually computer failures. The most recent of these, which took place in 1995, well after the end of the Cold War, involved a US rocket that was launched from Norway. The Russian military radar misinterpreted this rocket, thought that it might represent a nuclear missile being fired from a US submarine off the coast of Norway. And the only time that we know about in the nuclear weapons era, the briefcase which the Russian leadership carries at all times to respond to nuclear attack, that briefcase was activated. And Boris Yeltsin, president of Russia at the time, was given a matter of minutes to decide if he should start World War III. Fortunately, he didn't. But these close calls are a very powerful cautionary tale. The danger that we will just accidentally have a nuclear war is something which we must deal with.
If such incidents happen between India and Pakistan has more than 100 nuclear weapons, close proximity. Yes, their militaries are mature, they have been under conflict many times. Yes, they may have a good communication system, but if that happens, what is going to happen to the globe?
Well, the scenario that we looked at in detail in our study envisioned a war between India and Pakistan in which 50 weapons were used on each side against cities on the other side. And we, for the purposes of our study, assumed these weapons were about the size of the Hiroshima bomb. Now, in fact, both India and Pakistan have many more weapons than that, and many of them are much larger than the Hiroshima bomb. So this is something of a conservative estimate of what might happen. But in our study, we found that the immediate destruction in South Asia is just incalculable. 100 cities are destroyed. Something on the order of 20 million people die within a week from explosions, from fire, from radiation poisoning. This is a catastrophe unparalleled in human history to have so many people die in such a short period of time. But as really unimaginable as these direct effects of this nuclear war would be, they're only a small part of the story because 100 bombs going off under cities cause 100 firestorms, basically. Huge fires that loft in total about 5 million tons of soot into the upper atmosphere. That blocks out sunlight and drops temperatures across the entire planet, causing basically global climate disruption. The temperature decline is about 1.3 degrees centigrade on average across the whole planet, lasts for about 10 years. As a result of this cooling, the growing season shortens, less sunlight gets through to mature plants, there is less rainfall because with a cooler air atmosphere, less water evaporates from the oceans to fall back to Earth as precipitation. And as a result of these factors, there is a significant decline in global food production, which can trigger what we've referred to as a nuclear famine. We've looked at a number of specific crops, primarily in countries quite far removed from India and Pakistan. We've looked at crop production in the United States and in China primarily, and seen devastating declines in food production, which would then affect people all around the world, including back in India and Pakistan. There are, in the world today, about 870 million people who are, at baseline today, under current conditions, malnourished. They get just enough food to maintain their body mass, which will enable them to do a little bit of work. And all of these people would be at risk of starvation in the aftermath of this limited war confined just to South Asia. Many of the famine victims would be in South Asia as well, but there would also be huge numbers of people dying of hunger in Africa, in Southeast Asia, in Latin America, areas far removed from the actual scene of the war.
What is the destructive power of today's nuclear bomb if by mistake it gets dropped to a populated area?
There is a terrible, terrible risk of the accidental detonation of one of these weapons.